I shall briefly describe to thee that state which the knowers of the Vedas call the imperishable, which ascetics free from passion enter and desiring which they lead a life of self-control. In this verse, God begins to introduce a very important topic that we will be talking about in the 12th verse. Knowers of the Veda and wise people call this state imperishable, Satchidananda, existence, wisdom, bliss, Brahman. Yataya means ascetics, or those great souls who have assimilated great efforts throughout their whole lives. Shri Krishna says in this verse that such people desire for the Supreme Soul and obey the vows of brahmachari, self-control. Srimad Adi Shankaracharya ji defines the word sangrahena used in this verse as sanshay bina, which means briefly describing that state. What type of state is it that Shri Krishna is going to describe? This is a state which the knowers of the Vedas call the imperishable. Srimad Adi Shankaracharya ji describes Veda Vitaha as those who know the meaning of the Vedas. This is not those who never forget the Vedas, but those who know the meaning of the Vedas. This is those who know the substance of the Vedas and the goal of the Vedas. What is the goal of the Vedas? It's Ruta. What is the goal of the Vedas? Brahman. We think that people chant the Vedas to offer oblations or to worship God. This is fine and we do this, there is no denying this, but the goal of the Vedas is not just worship, and the goal of the Vedas is not just material sacrifices. The goal of the Vedas is Brahman, and this is the path to reach Brahman. Those who wish to attain Brahman and those who know Vedas describe this state as imperishable. We must understand the word vitaraga. We know two words, ragi and viragi. Vitarag is a very important word. Rag means attraction and pull. Virag means the opposite of this, which is repulsion, and vitarag means neither attraction nor repulsion. Vitarag means one whose attraction has gone away and has rooted away. Vikata raga yasya saha vitaraga. That's the meaning of vitaraga. We can understand this by way of a simple example. Let us say that there is a very nice garden of flowers. After seeing the garland, one's mind thinks that it's a very nice garden of flowers, and if it rests on its neck, then it will be very good. The wish arises and it is very natural. This means that a rag, attraction, goes from us towards this garland. We run after the garland and say that it will do whatever it takes to get the garland, and we're prepared to a donation of 10,000 rupees, 20,000 rupees, or 30,000 rupees. We are prepared to do whatever it takes so that the garland falls upon our necks. This is rag, attraction. What it has done to us is that it made us run after something. The opposite state to this is virag, repulsion, where after seeing the garland, we do not want it at all, and we say that the garland is wrong. We say we do not want it, and if someone comes to place it on us, we tell them, no, I do not want it, and run far away from it. This is virag, repulsion. But what happens is that both states of rag, attraction, and virag, repulsion are running. This garland leads to them performing some activity and some reaction. One person runs towards the garland, and another person runs away from the garland. A person who vitarag is such that the garland stays in its place, and this person stays in his place. It does not mean anything to him. Even if the garland comes and falls on his neck, then this vitaragi person will be so steady, and even if the garland does not come to him, then he does not get covetous towards the garland. Neither does he go towards the garland, nor does he go away from the garland. This is what vitarag is. In the Jain religion, the word vitarag has a lot of importance. The rag, attraction, and virag, repulsion, do not have much importance. Vitarag has a lot of importance. Mahavir Swami is a vitaragi because he had everything and all the attraction of rag, attraction such as a palace, possessions, a beautiful wife, child, and everything, yet he left everything and went. This is vitarag. This wealth could not make him run. At the beginning, it looked as if he went to the opposite end of rag, attraction, which is virag, repulsion, but when he became purified and wise, and he became steady, then he didn't need to run away from wealth. This is vitarag. Vitarag is very important in life. Rag, attraction, and virag, repulsion are dualities and true extremes of a pendulum. Either we are rag, attracted, or we are virag, which is repulsed. The position is the state of vitarag. In this, the perspective towards life and the material world is different. Such a person is always in a state of happiness, but this is not an happiness of attaining something, but a happiness in what is already there. That sense of ecstasy is by accepting things as they are. Where does our happiness come from? We get happiness when we acquire objects or if some objects go far away from us. At one place I read on the board that there are some guests from which we get happiness when they come and some guests from which we get happiness when they go. People are of these two types. Our happiness normally comes from rag, attraction, and virag, repulsion, but vitarag is a mean position. Shri Krishna uses the word yatyaha after vitarag in this verse. Shankaracharya ji says the word yatyaha shows that such a vitaragi, vitaraga raga vyabhate vitaraga, is one who makes efforts. Yatam shila samyasinaha. If we understand the meaning of every word of the Gita deeply, then we understand. Think about it. If a person becomes vitaragi, then what efforts are there left to be done? When do we make efforts? We make efforts when we want something or when we want to leave something. A person who is vitarag has become steady, so what efforts has such a person got left to be made? Yet this person still makes efforts. This effort is true effort, and this effort is authentic. Such a person does not want anything, and yet he is still making efforts. Why does such a person wish to attain Brahman? Why does such a person want Sakshakar, divine vision of the Supreme Soul? It's because such a person wants something. If this is the case, then such a person is not a vitaragi. This person does not wish for anything and just performs the action. Lena dena bandhu hai, fir bhi anand hai, giving and taking stops, yet there is still bliss. This is the state described in this verse. Such people do not wish for anything and yet still make efforts enter into the state of the imperishable Brahman. Shri Krishna uses such a beautiful word, vishanti, meaning to enter. This is because this person has nothing to take and therefore he is not going to attain that state or to catch that state. Then how is such a person going to attain this state? She is going to vishanti, enter this state. If there is stairs or a ladder, then you have to climb up or climb down them, and all of this can happen. But if a person does not wish for anything and just stands on the escalator and by himself goes and enters into another floor, that is why Shri Krishna uses the word vishanti, meaning to enter. There is effortlessness in this. Thirdly, Shri Krishna says in this verse that such people, desiring the state of the imperishable Brahman, lead and obey brahmachari, a life of self-control. We give one limited meaning of brahmachari as abstinence from sex. If someone abstains from sex, then we think that they are brahmachari. This is not brahmachari. Brahmachari is not avoiding relationships of men and women. The whole definition of brahmachari is different. In stepping into Brahman, playing in Brahman, and having one's thoughts in Brahman, this is true brahmachari. What happens on the majority of occasions is that the senses are moving in the material world, and the senses moving in the material world will lead to the power of the senses becoming depleted and destroyed to a great extent. The eyes keep seeing. Let us say that we are driving from Mumbai for 2 hours and we keep looking around us. We read the first billboard and the second billboard. We read some board on a shop. There is no need for any of this, and yet we keep reading these things. It is strenuous to the eyes. This power is being lost. If you keep listening to something over and over again for 2 hours, 4 hours or longer, then this power of the senses is being wasted. If any of the senses are used in any way, then no matter where the senses go, their power is destroyed and the power is gone. What is brahmachari? It is stopping the wasteful roaming, this wasteful bumping around of the senses, and therefore the wasteful exertion of the senses is because the senses are bumping around that they're being exerted, and making the mind steady, calm, to focus and prepare to listen to the vibrations of the Omkar. The vibrations of the Omkar come up over and over again in these verses. This is brahmachari. Brahmachari is not abstinence, it is actually focusing. It is concentrating. It is channelizing. If you wish to make maximum use of any power, then it is necessary to channelize it. Great saints give us a very simple example that if the sun is shining and you put some cotton wool in front of its face, then the cotton wool does not burn. But if you put a magnifying lens between the sun and the cotton wool, then the cotton wool will start burning. The rays were of the same sun and were exactly the same, but what this magnifying lens did was to gather together the rays of the sun to focus, and that is why the cotton wool burned. When this energy gathers together, then it can be used for its maximum effect. That is what brahmachari is. It is collecting the power of the senses. When one can hear the vibrations of the Omkar, then one can attain the Supreme Soul. Those who obey brahmachari, a life of self-control, do so to attain that state of the imperishable Brahman. Ramanujacharya describes the word bad used in this verse as what is attained by the mind as its goal. Padyate gamate anena iti padam. The mind should have the Supreme Soul, which is great, as its goal. Shri Krishna says to Arjuna in this verse that he would briefly describe this state in a short form. This is the state which to attain thousands of sages have been making efforts in various ways for thousands of years. By saying no to the Vedas, Shri Krishna is talking about the way of wisdom and study. Shri Krishna then talks about ascetics to make efforts, and this is the way of karma. Then finally Shri Krishna talks about brahmachari, and this is the way of penances and devotion. Therefore, no matter if it is the path of wisdom, the path of karma, or the path of penances and devotion, ultimately this peak state that is the goal one has to attain is one. What is this peak state? And how can one attain the peak state? The next verse shows this.